Hey, what do you know? I got the music timing just right tonight.
Nice.
It was fantastic. I loved it. A little bit of classical to roll into tonight's discussion, and just give everybody a little culture. You know,
We all need a little culture in our
little
lives.
yeah, just a little culture. It's
Yeah.
good. It's good
Um,
stuff. I like it, and I have plenty of classical music people in my family, so it's fantastic.
yeah, that is true. Do you? Yeah, I do remember you mentioning you have a lot of folks in your family that play instruments. Do you play an instrument?
Um, I'm gonna take a no on that one. Yeah,
you
I
you tried and just wasn't for you.
well, I used to back in like high school days and stuff like that. But I played timpani.
The fuck's a tinfany?
It's a big drum, big, a big kettle drum,
Okay.
basically. I also played trombone, played a little bit of guitar. Um, didn't do any of those three things well, but I you know, sort of played them. So
I mean, shit, it's better than me.
I let
I
other
can't.
other
I
people
can't
play the
play
music. I just enjoy it.
Yeah, I can't play an. Yeah, exactly. I can't play an instrument. I've wanted to learn. I've wanted to learn. I didn't put as much effort in as I should have when I had the chance. So
Right,
that's on me.
right, right. That's I want to learn. I want to learn piano. Basically, it's things
Yeah.
that I want to learn.
Violin or cello for me.
Violin or cello. Okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool.
Yeah, no, it's the atypical answer. I want to learn the violin. Yeah. What can I say? I love string instruments, which I
I
believe technically, and for those who know instruments, I think the piano is actually considered a string instrument. I think it's either string or percussion. I, one of the two.
played piano for 10 years. Fantastic. Maybe you can teach me sometime.
I was say shit. I'd love to learn because I'm
Me and instruments don't really go together, though. I'll just warn you ahead of time. Kind of,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's violin, cello, or guitar. Piano's on there too. I think everybody wants to learn the piano, but I don't know. I lean more towards the strings. They just look cooler, and they're easier to fucking transport too.
Oh,
I can take them
are
with
you
me.
are you saying a piano's not easy to transport, or?
I mean, yeah, even like the small ones, even like the little Yamahas, those are fucking huge.
Right?
Violin, slap that in the case. A guitar, slap that in the case. Cello, you wheel that shit right out, right out. Hell yeah.
There's some
Oh man.
people that can do some awesome covers on
Yes.
piano.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just sometimes I'll just sit and listen to that for hours just to chill. So, how about an introduction tonight? We can get
Yeah. All
rolling
right.
into having
Yeah.
some discussions about things other than instruments that we can't play.
I think the crowd would love that. And just yes, hear us just talk about the shit we can't do. All right, guys, welcome in to episode 64 of the Update Log. I am your host, Rob, and this is my co-host, Greg. Tonight, we talk about a couple things. Not any one particular topic or leading it, but there's been a lot of things going on in the industry across the board. But our primary focus is going to be mostly on the TTRPG community this tonight. Um, as most of you know, the 2024 edition of Dungeons and Dragons um, has not been released yet. Well, kind of. There are pre-orders that you can do for the Player's Handbook, but it doesn't officially launch to retailers until September 17th, I believe. But if you went to Gen Con a couple Saturdays ago, you got access to the Player's Handbook that they had at the table there. And there are individuals, obviously reviewers, who have an advanced copy. So that's already been, people have already been reviewing the Player's Handbook. Uh, WotC as themselves been talking about the new updates and changes to things like the backgrounds, the ability scores, the weapon masteries, things like that. So all that information's out there.
Really
Um,
really awesome thing about Gen Con is, that it is a wonderful place for new release stuff, or, an opportunity to go and test out games, play play games that haven't come to release yet, kind of play
yes,
testing. One other product that did release at Gen Con, actually a little before Gen Con, but in time for Gen Con, is the new Edge Runners mission kit from Artel Sorian. So
yes,
for
yeah, which
all
we
you,
actually did a review on
you did.
a while back. So if you guys are interested in that, go check out that video either here or on our YouTube. They're both posted up on either one of those. But yeah, the Edge Runners mission kit, which introduced most notably, and I think what people were really excited for, quick hacks in the same vein as the video game 2077, which by the way, the mechanics for that were really cool. um, we have yet to play it, but we're going to. I know we're going to. Um, but yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was released at Gen Con. I believe another piece of a product that was announced at Gen Con. It wasn't showcased at Gen Con. Um, I don't believe it was, but it was announced. There was a panel for it, and it is actually so it was called initially the Stormlight RPG, but I've since learned that the actual name for this particular game is called Cosmere. And for those of you who are familiar with Brandon Sanderson, prolific author, arguably one of the best sci-fi fantasy authors of the last 20 years, in my opinion. Um, Definitely picked up the torch that both Robert Jordan and Tolkien put down, and C.S. Lewis as well. Um, Ironically enough, he actually wrote the last four books of the Wheel of Time series.
No, the last two books.
The last two books, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So he helped finish off the Wheel of Time series. So if that's any indication of the level of respect that someone of Robert Jordan's caliber had for him, there you go. He trusted him to finish the books.
He took part
Uh,
he took part in the writing in the last four books, though. We're correct about.
okay, so he took part in the writing of the last four, but he wrote the last two.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
By
Well,
that.
I mean, I think Robert Jordan by that time was probably in his 70s or 80s.
No, but he had passed away at that point.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
the last three books were actually written originally as one book. It just was so huge that they
Uh,
broke it into three books. But yeah. Hey,
Probably a smart decision because if for those of you who don't know Robert Jordan's books, I think the smallest of them is like 800 pages.
folks, yeah.
The man can write. The man can write.
Hey, and
Hey,
join
what's
us.
up, Insomnia Night?
Shameless
Welcome,
plug here,
everybody.
but join us tomorrow night for a review of, which one is
Book
it? Book five.
four, book five, book five
No, you're right. It is book. No, it's book five. Book five.
is book
Fires of
five.
Heaven.
It's
Yes.
yeah. No, damn, book five. Yeah, one of my favorites.
Insomnia.
One of my favorites, and I will admit the cover art for that one made me want to get one of those long red coats that Rand has. Just saying. Just saying. It looked dope. But so yeah, so again, kind of circling back to the point, I kind of went off script there a little bit. But Brandon Sanderson, in conjunction with Brotherwise Games, um, have joined forces to create a TTRPG that is based off of the Cosmere, which is Brandon Sanderson's universe for his books, namely the Stormlight Archives series, the Mistborn series, which I've read. Absolutely fantastic series, one of the best I've ever read. Highly suggest you read it, and a number of other ones. He has a number of different series that pretty much take place in again in the Cosmere, in this universe that he's built at different points on a timeline, different eras, and even on different planets in some cases. So it's a conglomeration of different things. But anyway, Brotherwise Gaming and Brandon Sanderson have kind of collaborated and are co-authoring a TTRPG that they're putting out, a D20 system. It's actually on Kickstarter right now, and I believe it is maybe closing in on 7.5 million. So it's way past funded.
Oh yeah, they were only looking
Oh, like,
for 250,000, I think it was, and
yep,
yeah,
and they're almost 7.5 mil so
it
far.
is.
And they got what, like 15 days to go. But we're gonna get all into that because they themselves also have put out some information on it. They've been doing YouTube videos and things like that, and they've actually have a beta packet out that if you want to try out, kind of a one-shot style, a jumpstart kit, you can do so. We're also going to get into the topic that we actually discussed a bit last episode about Stop Killing Games, which is an initiative started in the EU to basically preserve games um, that were, games that have shut
I'm,
down.
I'm gonna
One of the
I'm gonna
Go ahead.
take a contrarian approach to this and say start killing games. I think we should
Start killing
we should do
games.
that. Yeah, yep. That should be
I mean,
the new effort.
depending on the game, some of them might need to get shut down. But yeah, so we're going to dive into that and a couple other things. But so yeah, let's get started. Oh well, actually, there's another one, and this one was a surprise to me. Greg actually found this gem. So for those of you who might have heard of this podcast way back when, in the early, I want to say about 2010ish, this podcast called Welcome to Night Vale is releasing its own TTRPG. And they're set to start crowdfunding October of this year. Um, so they're actually using the Essence 20 system, which I've never actually heard of that one. That one's new to me. I'm gonna have to
Good, check it
check
out.
that one out. Yeah, check that one out. But it was a podcast created by Joseph Fink, which we'll go into that piece a little later on in the episode. But yeah, welcome, man. Well, you put that out, you put that information out there, man, and I was absolutely surprised because
Oh, you were surprised that I did some research, right?
no, I was surprised that they were doing that. I was surprised that they were actually doing that because I had not expected that at all, and I had stopped listening to the podcast years ago. This does make me gonna want to re-listen to it now again. Really good podcast. For those of you who like odd
I have
humor,
actually. Uh,
check it out.
Insomnia is talking about pirate software.
Oh yeah, Pirate Software. Yes, yes,
And
yes. Pirate Software.
there's a couple of there's definitely a couple of stances out there, and
And yes, Insomniac. I've heard his stance, and I agree. I agree with it almost completely. Um, because again,
it is.
you can't keep some going indefinitely. Now I said almost completely because there are some ways to do it. There are some ways in which if all parties are agreed to that, those games can be hosted on to use an example, maybe some private servers or maybe some public servers, but maybe the communities can run them, something like that. My issue with it, and I agree with Pirate Software in this regard, is where individuals try to profit off of that. That's not the company that created it. Meaning, if myself and Greg took a game that's dead and we hosted it on a server and we're charging fees for it, that I don't agree with. We didn't create any of that. We're just hosting it. We're just maintaining it. And while that is work, we have no
I think there's
ownership
a
of that
really big
intellectual
platform
property.
out there that does that. Something starts with an S, but yeah.
What platform are you talking about, Greg?
What
Steam?
platform?
Yeah.
Well, let's we can be less aggressive and just say Valve. How about that?
Valve, yeah. So yeah, you know what? Let's start on that one because that is definitely a topic of discussion that I think warrants a bit of a deep dive here because for the longest time now, at least the last several months, we've been hearing from folks on. We'll look at the developer side of things. That Ubisoft, I think he was a VP or something like that. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but that Ubisoft employee basically said players should get used to not owning their games anymore, and that was in response to you know uh, um, the hard copies of games. Being owning a physical copy of your game, which obviously people in the gaming community took to mean something completely different and took issue with that comment, which I don't blame them because on the surface it's implying that the games that we pay for, whether it's digital, whether it's physical or digital, but especially if it's digital, aren't ours to keep. Meaning, I can't go 10 years from now and boot up that game and play it. And here's the thing, from my perspective, if it is a single player game, meaning that there is either no or very little multiplayer or online multiplayer functionality, um, meaning that there's no like true multiplayer that's core to the game. There's none. If I didn't play this game online, it wasn't really going to hamper my experience with playing of the game. Then I don't see why these games can't be, legislation can't be drafted up to allow verified individuals. And again, there's a whole way that can happen. Again, I'm not a politician or anything like that, but there is I believe there is legislation that can be drafted up that can allow either a third party like somebody like Valve, or maybe someone else to create that infrastructure because all you really need is servers and host these games on those servers for people to re-download them or what have you. And again, that's only for single player titles. I want to make that excessively fucking clear because this initiative out here is calling for every fucking game to be saved, and it's like, guys, if you want to save your game, how about you get a get a hard drive or something, download it on that motherfucker, just keep it.
Well,
Simple as that.
the one piece in particular that is troublesome with this movement is revolving around the MMOs, the multiplayer online games.
Yeah, and
Um,
and that to me, that's where I agree with Pirate Software, where how are you going to ask companies to continue to host and cater to a game at a loss?
right.
That's number one. That's essentially what they're saying. We want you guys to host this game because we paid for it, no matter if you're taking a financial loss or not. Or or the alternative is the alternative is they turn over the proprietary code to whomever the fuck, and then that person hosts it on a private server. Which again, that's fine as long as that person isn't going to make a profit off of that because you didn't build that game, you didn't create that game. So why should you earn a profit on something you didn't make? And here's the thing, that's exactly where it's going to go. Eventually, they're going to start charging because hosting a server ain't cheap. It takes electricity, pay for that. It's money coming out of their pocket. But they want to put that on somebody else. They want to put that on the companies that are going to have to like that. I agree with you on that one. That's not. Here's the thing. And the ironic part about that, Greg, is people are bitching about live service stuff. People
Absolutely.
are getting upset that everything's going live service, live service, live service.
Well,
It's like, oh, well,
in some cases, though, rightly so. I mean, they're
yeah, yeah. No, go ahead, say a piece.
well, here's the thing about the live service games. I mean, it's become kind of the honeypot for a lot of the big studios to
Oh yeah,
create these
absolutely.
live service games, and they make tons and tons of money off these games.
Well, they
Be,
try to. They try. Some of them do, but most of them are trying to make tons and tons of money and not realizing that it's not a get rich quick scheme, guys. The live service isn't gonna. It's not a money printing machine.
right. Well, the subscription base is really where that comes down to,
Yeah,
because you over time you are going to make more than you would just selling that product right
yeah,
out.
yeah.
And they use some really creative ways to make that work. Where it becomes abusive is the microtransactions to it, where
Oh yeah,
all the
cash
little
shops.
things that that you're buying in the game, where and a lot of them become more or less a pay to win style situation. So
Mhm.
if you don't, if if you're all you want to do is play games. You want to play the games that you love. You want to have some fun. You want to relax, whatever it happens to be, and you don't have a lot of money. It kind of takes those environments that you're using to for enjoyment and entertainment, and makes them not so enjoyable anymore. So because you don't have the money for it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I understand why folks are getting upset about the push for live service because again, it's the whole subscription based thing. It's the whole I gotta constantly keep paying for this, etc., etc. And here's the kind of arguments to a lot of people who are on board with this particular initiative. Which again, for those of you who are who are unfamiliar with it, it is an initiative started in Europe. It is only for European citizens. So us, folks here in the states really can't chime in on that, can't support that. It's for you folks over on the other side of the Atlantic.
We can have opinions
Uh,
though, whether
yeah, we can't
they're
have opinions,
whether they're
which we are
popular or not, doesn't matter.
exactly. Yep. Um, so and and again, I do not claim to be someone who is well versed in drafting those kind of legislations or contracts or like that. But from hearing from folks who are more well versed, other developers who are more familiar with those kind of things, um, it is not drafted well. It leaves a lot of wiggle room for abuse. Um, so that needs to be fixed. And here's the thing: I've heard kind of arguments to that because that was brought up by particular individuals, kind of pointing that out as a knock against the way the this particular initiative is going. And there were some folks who had some comments to say about that, saying, well, that's on the part of legislature to pretty much tidy up the language. And while I agree at the end of the day, the legislation and legislators, over in the EU are more than likely going to be the ones to pretty up the language and really, really kind of fine tune it and tidy it up. I think folks who are trying this hard to keep games going would have done their due diligence, would have sat down with lawyers or folks who are or who are familiar with this stuff
Shut up and
and
take my money.
kind of drafted a better a better set of documents, worded it better, made sure that there was a clear distinction on what they want, because again, this is from a layman. From what I read on the website, it seems like they're calling for all games to be preserved, and I'm like, that's just not fucking feasible.
Right.
It's not.
But
Okay, it's not, and it makes no sense because at a certain point, the service game will stop.
right.
Will stop, and people are like, well, I'm not paying for a service, I'm paying for a product, and da, da, da. It's like in this day and age, those two are not necessarily mutually exclusive, my friend. Sometimes, you ever heard of software as a service? Uh, Like
Well, I think there's certain
Sometimes the software is the product.
right. Well, there's certain aspects of what they're doing with this, stop killing games movement that make sense, that are, would
Yeah.
possibly be good, and that's I think more in the direction of stopping some of the abusive practices that happen out there.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and
One of them we actually discussed on an earlier episode was Sony going into people's libraries and pulling games. And I think actually the Crew was one of those games. I know it was a racing game. I think it might have been the
Mhm.
Crew. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, that right there. Like, I wait a minute, I paid for that. Why are you going? First of all, why are you going into my library and pulling shit out of my library? That's number
Mhm.
one. Number two, I paid for that. What are you doing? And here's the thing. I understand the outrage that came with that. And I agree with you. Like, practices like that, no, that's a no go for me.
Right.
Absolutely no go.
Well, and there's also the aspect of games that are non-live service games that require you to have an internet connection.
Yeah,
Um,
that yes, that is. I'm sure there's a reason for it. Yeah, there's actually many reasons for it. One, I'm sure it's so the Sony and various other people can kind of get access to your email stuff like that. Not in a malicious way, but it's all about emails now. It's all about connectivity. It's all about, hey, let me send you this email or this what let's connect in such and such fashion. It's the name of the game now.
right. The,
Um,
the the problem with that though, and especially in the case of like a single player game, is I go out and I buy this game. I pay whatever I pay for, $50, we'll say. Um,
yep.
and it requires me to have this service connection to be able to play the game. Well, then when the studio decides to stop supporting the game, what happened to my $50? And especially
e-
if they're not honest up front with what you're actually purchasing.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, I think everyone nowadays, we understand that like MMOs and online multiplayer games, not just MMOs, but you have some that are 4-player co-op or whatever. At a certain point, if they are not profitable to the studio, they will close down.
Mhm.
We understand that. However, like you said, where does that leave me and my $70 that I paid for it? Now, granted, I think at a certain point we can all agree we've gotten our money's worth. If you have 1,000+ hours
Never,
on a game,
never.
I think you got your money's worth. Though that said, that again, I paid for that.
Right.
I should have that for as long as I want to keep it.
The, the,
Um,
the whole idea of whether you got your money's worth out of something or not is that's a
that's
really
subjective.
exactly,
Yeah,
and
that's
that's
subjective. That's just my opinion. Though, at 1,000 hours, if you played a game for 1,000 hours, my opinion, you got your fucking money's worth. You got your
right. But
thousand
somebody else's
hours.
opinion, I mean, hey, I
Yeah,
still
somebody
I
else
still
might be like,
paid
no,
fifty
I,
bucks
I
for
want
it.
two
I mean,
thousand hours.
right.
You know, so yeah, I mean, again, subjective opinion.
Well, and it's not in a service agreement. It's not,
Yeah,
when you buy that game, it doesn't tell you that you're paying $50 for whatever, 1,000 hours worth of gameplay. That's not what you bought. You bought the game.
well, you bought the game. Yeah,
And well, that's what you thought you bought. And that's
yeah,
where, right, read the fine print and it tells you, oh no,
yeah.
you bought an access key. You didn't
Yeah.
buy the game.
You didn't buy
You
the
you
game.
just bought
You bought
access rights to the game
access. Exactly.
for as
Basically, you bought a
long as
license.
it's supported. Right.
Yeah, basically, you bought a license, and
Released it.
I think that's where. So on the developer side, I think that's where they dropped the ball, not being clear, even though it's clearly stated in the TOS that no one fucking ever reads. Let's just call it what it is. They know no one reads it. The majority of the gaming industry doesn't read. I've read one the entire time I've ever gamed. I read one from cover to cover,
That's one more than I've read.
and it was a slog. the amount of legalese and just but I forced myself to read it because I want number one, I wanted to say I have,
Mhm.
not for bragging rights or anything, but again, I sit there and be like, okay, I've read one of those, so I get it. And yeah, if you're playing a live service game, you have purchased a license. You've leased. You've gained access to the game, access to the service. Um, so no, you don't own it. You own that access key. And as Greg said, as long as it's supported.
Right.
When the support goes, there goes your access.
There goes your
Oh
game.
wow. And here's the thing. When every single one of us, you, myself, Greg, everybody watching, whenever you say, when you scroll all the way down and don't reach it and click OK, you've accepted that. You've accepted that. So hey, you got the only person you got to blame is yourself. Now, that said, on the other side of that line, I believe uh, studios and publishers and all that, they need to make it clear, hey guys, you've
Or
bought the
gals.
game.
Or gals.
You and
Let's not
gals,
be
yeah,
sexist
guys and
here. Come
gals,
on.
you've bought the game, or the basically the vernacular needs to change. The vernacular needs to change, meaning, hey, you now have access to the game with your purchase, because access and owning are not the same thing.
Right.
So and and I know a lot of people out there are not gonna be like, "What are you talking about? You're full of shit. You don't know nothing." Like, I bought this game. It's mine. Like,
I, I'm curious, one curiosity for me is just how many people actually share, how many people actually share that idea that, if I
honestly, I've after looking at the petition for this game for Stop Killing Games. Now, granted, here's the thing: they have until next year. They have
Mhm.
until 2025, I believe, April, to have this signed. They have a whole year to kind of get the signatures. I believe it's like 1 million signatures that they're going to need. Um, and I watched a video where it talks about the kind of the weighted difference of certain countries as opposed to other countries in the EU because of population per capita, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a whole system behind this, but I believe they're going to need at least 1 million signatures to get this to actually go to, in front of the EU commission that handles these sort of things. Um, and for it to be taken serious. And so far, I mean, again, it just started, I believe, this very recently. I believe it was, I want to say April, but I think maybe May or June, the last couple of months. So they have some time, but it's not like I think it's less than 100,000 signatures right now. I know that. I'm pretty sure that it's not that many, or
Right.
at least not as many as you think. So, in answer to your question, Greg, I don't think it's that a lot of people subscribe to that thinking. I think the majority of gamers just don't care enough. They're
Right.
like, look, I paid, I got my money's worth, or I didn't, and I'm moving on. For them, it's not
Right.
that deep. Um, and hey, kudos to you, man. I mean, you care about what you care about. Um, so there's that. But for those for those who care about the preservation of games, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing,
Mhm.
because yeah, we do need games out there that are we do need to respect the fact that
Where did Tron
there are
go?
folks, yeah, that people who want these games to stick around, and there are some games that should stick around. I mean, what would happen if Mario Brothers just disappeared? You know what I mean? Like, imagine a
Pong.
world around
Frogger.
Mario or Pong, yeah, Pong, Frogger, Tetris. Like it no, it wouldn't asteroid. It
Mhm.
would be weird. It would be weird if there was a world where those games didn't exist and we didn't have access to them. So I think the preservation of games is something that needs to be looked at, is something that needs to be seriously considered. But this particular movement, I don't think is it. At least not the way it's worded now.
Right.
Because no, we don't need every damn live service game to be preserved just because someone paid for it. especially when in most TOSs for live service games, again, like I said, you're paying for access. You're not buying the game, you're paying for access to the game via your access key.
Yep. All the horse armor and houses
Oh,
and
horse, Jesus
jewelry
Christ.
and
Let's stop talking about
outfits
horse
that
armor.
you buy are yeah. I've shown those too, right?
Mm, yeah.
No, here's the thing about it. I mean, people really enjoy, some of these. Yeah. So, for instance, I mean, I spent a lot of money on that game.
You did.
Um,
You really did.
and
This man had almost, I think you had either almost all or every like crafting table that you can get.
yeah, I had all the crafting tables, most of the houses. Um, but that's just the thing. While I was playing it, I really enjoyed that game. Um, I don't even play it anymore. So, that's all my choice. That was all I chose to spend that money. Can't blame anybody else for it. It's not like I
Exactly.
feel
Yeah.
like they owe me something because no, that's I could have not spent that money.
Yeah. You could have not played the game, and you'd be like, "No, I'm good."
Yeah, probably shouldn't have
Yeah.
played the game, but no.
Well, I mean, if you've never played the game, you and I would have never met, and this wouldn't be happening.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, for
Imagine
those of
that.
you who don't know, myself and Greg met on Elder Scrolls Online. We were part of a online community in the game, and over the years became friends, and
I
here we are.
actually I have quite a few very wonderful people that I met through that game that are close friends to me. Um, so and that's the I would say that's probably the biggest piece to the MMO part for me personally. I mean, people, everybody has their own reasoning behind why they enjoy those games, but the interaction between people and just the connections that you can make through those games is fantastic. I'm not a big PvPer, but I mean, there's a lot of PvP people out there that's their thing. That's their drive is to go out and do that.
Yep. You have to go out and scrap and have some fun there.
Right.
Um,
Teabagging people. I mean, that's
Jesus.
that's what they enjoy. I mean, okay, whatever. That's good.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
for you.
To each their own.
Yeah, not big on the PvP. I don't. I Insomnia. If you're still here, I know he's a big PvPer. Apparently, he's pretty good at it. So
Yeah. Okay.
yes, I have done PvP. Especially, there's a couple of games. One that was free to play. Um, that I had some friends drag me into. I Fallen Earth. You ever heard of that one?
Fallen Earth. I have. I've never played it though.
Yeah, that's a little older one. That was a free to play game. There were some pay options that were in there that you could spend money on. Level ups, I think, some of the skins and things like that. But that was cool for a while, and I met quite a few really interesting. The times that I was playing mainly were European players who were on, so I was able to make some friends through that game over in Britain, France. Just people that I had just met through the game, and you play together, you chat, just kind of get to know each other, and that's the beauty of those multiplayer online games is you get to meet a bunch of people from all over the world, and form some bonds, form some relationships there. Is it worth it? Yes, it is worth it. Yeah, you met us two dorks through ESO. Indeed, you did. You say that as if you're not a dork. Should I take offense to that? I don't. Don't worry about
Yep. Neither do I.
it.
But so yeah. So the situation with the Stop Killing Games initiative is again. I feel like it's a topic of conversation. It's an issue that definitely needs to be addressed, especially when it comes primarily and, in my opinion, exclusively to single player games. Those do need to be preserved because, again,
Takes one to know one, right, Harbor?
yep, um, single player games are, once they're done, they're done. Once the final updates are out, they're out. So those I can see being more in line with kind of the initiative of stop killing games. The multiplayer games, the MMOs, the all that stuff, the live service. I mean, at a certain point, it's gonna end, man. They can't host it forever. They can't keep it running for fucking ever, especially at a loss. As a business, that's stupid.
Well, and
That's
that's
just foolish.
the danger of a movement like this one when it comes to those, the MMOs, the subscription based games,
Yep.
um, is that it's going to make it that much less attractive for these companies to want to do that, because
Yeah,
basically the legislation would in effect force them to keep these games active and
alive. Yep,
alive,
and
which
supported. Yeah,
right, and continue to fork over the money to maintain those servers, and that's going to make that a whole lot less attractive to these companies, and it's also going to raise the stakes a lot, because I mean,
yeah. They're gonna raise like I'm sorry if I was a company in the EU and I had a live service game and you were like now I was forced to maintain that and okay, now you're paying $50 a sub.
well, that, yeah, and they're just not going to want to create, they're not going to want to create
Yep.
new games that way. Or it'll
Yeah.
create, kind of a subculture piece where a lot of these games will be third party pieces. So the big
Yeah.
studios are, and you're basically gonna have a lower quality game. Is what's gonna,
Yep.
potentially what's gonna happen. Um,
Yeah. You know. And again, that doesn't mean I don't agree with part of the initiative, meaning preservation of games, because I do, just not in this way, and not to include live service games. That's just my 2 cents, because there's no reason for it. You come, you pay your money, you pay your sub, you buy the game, whatever the case is. You play it, you enjoy it, and eventually understand that it's gonna get shut down once it's no longer profitable for the studio, and that's understandable. And here's the thing: I think the majority of individuals within the gaming community understand that, which is why I don't think this particular initiative has as many signatures as you would think it would have by now, because it's been months already. I think it's been like at least 2 months already. So it, it's like, guys, come on. Like most people really are like, you know what? I'm just gonna play my game. And when it shuts down, it shuts down. That's whatever. So that said, um, let's move on to something a little bit happier.
Happier.
Namely, namely the Cosmere TTRPG. That is right now. I'm actually looking on Kickstarter
So so
because I'm
so
curious.
so first off, Brandon Sanders. Okay,
Oh
so
man.
the TTRPG is based off of his world that he's created.
Mhm.
We already mentioned earlier that he, was instrumental in finishing off the Wheel of Time series.
He was. Yep.
Robert Jordan had basically handpicked him to make sure that that all the people that love that series got some closure on it and brought that story to a conclusion, which is fantastic. He actually has produced a game already. I think it was like 2014, something like that. There was another game that he had created, not based on the Cosmere world, but there was another one that was out there. This time around, and yeah, if you have not checked out the Kickstarter, and yeah, here's a shameless plug for this system. Which, by the way, we don't get any compensation for, just so everybody is aware of that. But the Kickstarter is going on right now for the next 15 days, and it actually has broken records through Kickstarter. Last I looked, it was like 7.5 million. Um, but I have to say, that if you look through the tiers in that Kickstarter, it actually surprisingly has and I'm not saying that Kickstarters don't have value, but this one has a lot of value, even at like the $60 level.
Yes.
You're getting you're getting the digital copies plus your pick of two of the six initial books, which I mean that's pretty good for 60
That's
bucks.
a lot of fucking value. Yeah. That's for $60.
Yep, $60.
That's a hell of a lot of fucking value.
And I guarantee you, when
Um,
they actually come out, when they're actually published and released, I mean, you're probably not going to be able to touch two of those. Maybe for $60, but I doubt it.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, there's a chance because I've noticed that Sanderson has he has a habit of selling his stuff for cheap. And what I mean, not like cheap quality or anything like that, but like he really doesn't put a high MSRP on his product.
Right, right.
I don't know why. I think honestly, the guy's probably made quite a bit of money. Number one, so he's probably like, I'm good, I'm all right, and he's still writing, so he's going to
Right.
continue to make money. But again, I don't want to speculate on why he sells stuff at a bit of a lower price point
Maybe
than
he's
the
just a nice
competitors.
guy.
He seems like it, honestly. I'm not even being facetious. He seems like a generally nice guy who's like, you know what, I just want people to enjoy stuff, enjoy my product if they
Enjoy
want it.
great
And
story, which
yeah,
I
yeah,
looking
he's a fantastic writer, man.
right, looking at the the interviews, the feedback, the information out there on this system. Not only is it based off of the this world, which millions and millions of people enjoy, love this story setting, but a big emphasis for the game is really revolves around creating great story and providing that opportunity, that atmosphere for you as the player, or as a lover of the story, to actually feel as though you're able to step into that story and tell a part of it yourself, which is
Mhm.
fantastic. I really, one of the things that has really come into fruition really is revolving around the game style, player agency, and getting your players to actively engage in creating the story. And it sounds like this whole system is designed around that concept of getting the players to really be an active part of creating the story, creating the narrative to the story. So I really like that. That is awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm duly impressed that you know at the level that they've decided to do this. And so Brother Wise Games is the studio taking up the reins for creating the actual game TTRPG portion, and they've done a really good job from what I'm seeing so far from the mechanics. I'm sorry, I'm reading a piece here from comicbook.com. Apparently, Sanderson already holds the record for biggest Kickstarter of all time, having raised over 41.7 million. Oh, for the books that he self-published collectively,
Mhm.
Sanderson. Yeah, 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 that is true. Yes. Um, wow, I didn't know he actually had prior Kickstarters. This. Oh, okay. I learned something new today. Um, but yeah, they have done quite a bit of a different piece. Um, and what I mean by that, so it's based off of the D20 system. I don't know exactly which system it is, but it is a D20 system. But one of the things that stood out for me was what they call the plot die, which is a D6 that is separated into thirds. So one and two, if you have to roll a plot die, one and two, is consequence. 3 and 4 are blank, and then 5 and 6 are um, a success or a boon. I can't remember exactly what they call it, but basically, it's like a little bit of an addition to your success. So it's like a boon. And all of that is both the consequence and the boon are plot devices that a DM or even the player, and this is the thing that for me that's really key and that really sticks out about the Cosmere TTRPG is just through the mechanics themselves, through the systems themselves, they are kind of splitting the workload of the storytelling process. Arguably, in my opinion, better than D&D itself, where even mechanically, the player can take on a portion of the storytelling process based on the roles. Again, based on these plot die, where they can determine how that success is going to, be utilized, or how the consequence is going to be utilized. Um, they can also leave it in the hands of the DM, but I think I like that. I like that is again it's really leaning into what the TTRPG should be, meaning a collaborative, a cooperative storytelling process
Right.
between the players and the DM or GM, however, whatever you want to call it. So I'm really glad that they decided to do that. And there's a number of other things. Again, they're leaning into all of the different pieces of Brandon Sanderson's universe. So all the pieces of the Cosmere and things like that. I'm genuinely excited to see what the first book is going to be. Well, I know the first book is going to be the Stormlight Archive. So if any of you are familiar with that writing, that's what it's going to be. And then I personally I'm looking forward to when the Mistborn one drops. That one, absolutely. I read the trilogy. Well, the first trilogy is actually multiple ones. I think there's like two different sets of 3 books. So 6 total books in that particular universe
Right.
or that particular world. I'm excited for that one personally because they do like basically I consider like metal bending and shit like that. It's super cool. I think it's like called allomancy or something like that. I really, that's one thing I'll give Brandon Sanderson his kudos for. The man can create magical systems. He has a knack for that. So kudos to him.
Really good stuff. I'm looking forward to it. I know I know you have a copy of
Yes, yeah, I have a
so
copy of the
the
beta.
the beta
He put
version of it.
here's the thing, he put out a beta for everyone. So I'm I'm looking forward to seeing you know hearing people doing the let's play or maybe watching folks do a couple of let's plays on YouTube or Twitch, and who knows, maybe we might do one.
Right. That would be cool. Um, yeah, we have plenty of games to play at this point. So, all right, what else do we have for tonight? We might have a
All
short
right,
episode tonight.
we might, but that's okay. Sometimes that happens. Oh wait, actually, we have another TTRPG that is coming out. That arguably the information on this particular one will be a little short because Greg just dropped this on me uh, yesterday, and I believe it's definitely still in development. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, or maybe hopefully you are familiar with Welcome to Night Vale, it is a podcast that was started back in around the 2010ish uh, era.
Right.
So about 14 years ago. It's been a while. It was a podcast started by Joseph Fink, um, and it so it's about a sleepy desert town somewhere in the Midwest, I believe, and it's definitely has the Roswell UFO kind of eldritch horror, but in a comedic sense, kind of vibe to it. Um,
It looks like fun.
really, it really is a very very good. First of all, it's a very good podcast. I highly recommend you go listen to it. Um, but the TTRPG itself, based off of the Essence 20 role playing system, is set to be to come to I believe Kickstarter. I believe they're doing Kickstarter, or yeah, I believe they're doing Kickstarter, October 1st of 2024. So that's kind of when they'll
Launch.
be
They're gonna launch the backer
launched.
kit October 1st,
Yeah, and back in.
2024.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to taking a look at that one. I think
Oh
that
yeah, absolutely.
looks it's a little bit outside of the box from what we've been doing, um, but it definitely sounds interesting to me. And supporting a new game like that is fantastic. So
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to that one. So I'm gonna do my best to keep an eye on it, so that way you guys are kept apprised, because it's, like I said, highly recommend Welcome to Night Vale by Joseph Fink. Please go check it out. Shameless plug. No, he is not sponsoring this. If you want to, though, feel free. But no, it's really really good. It's really funny. Definitely had a lot of tongue in cheek humor. Um, the only other thing that I can think of that we can actually discuss, um,
there's always more to discuss.
there is. Uh, let's see.
I have a lot of opinions, Rob.
I know you have a lot of opinions, Greg. Well, okay, wait, here's the thing. Okay, Greg, what would you like to discuss? What's on
No,
your?
no, you go ahead. Go ahead. You can pick whatever you want to talk about. I did post the I taking just kind of taking a look around at some of the things that are out there. And I know I brought up the free to play games piece. And there's a lot of interesting, I'm not going to say great, but interesting free to play games that are out there and available. Quite a few of them
There are.
on Steam. So if you're a Steam user, I mean, go check out some of these things. A lot of times you'll check out a free to play game, and it honestly it kind of sucks. But every once in a while you will find a diamond in the rough. You'll find something that's just like, wow, okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
Um, hey, I do that occasionally. Let's go take a look and see what's out there and just try something. Um, I recently, what was it? Like medieval, shoot. I think it's just called medieval, one that it checked out recently. Which is literally a game where you take the place of a young person who's trying to restart their life, and they go chasing after their history, their family history. They know they have a rich uncle that lives in this far off place, so they go chasing down this person. And the game itself is two parts. One, really kind of chasing down that history and finding out about your family's heritage, and then two is building your own little medieval legacy, pretty much building so you start out building just a little hut, and hunting all the good things. You have to harvest and build things along the way. It's definitely more simulation style, but there's also some adventure in there. You get missions and things that you have to do. There's bandits. Even the wildlife can be challenging at times. Um, one aspect that's in there is the whole family aspect, because you actually do potentially end up getting married and having children and all of those things if but yeah, it's definitely not a one of those games that is filled with action, but it's enjoyable. I liked it.
Hmm. Also, unironically, speaking of free-to-play games, there are actually like again a number of gems. One of them being Lord of the Rings Online,
Yes.
game made back in 2007. I want to say maybe a little further back, around that time frame.
Something to
Um,
check out anyway.
has Yeah, has seen well, it is free to play, but they've seen a resurgence. Standing Stone Games has been regularly updating and maintaining the game and doing graphical updates. Oh yeah, Electra has really picked up. Yeah, they have. Well, it's here's the thing. It's the only MMO set in Middle Earth as of now. Um, Ironically enough, Amazon Games wanted to make their own, or rather, they're in the process, I believe, of making their own, unless that project has been scrapped. I can't confirm that. It might have been. Um, but I don't. If here's the thing, this is going to be a hot take. If Rings of Power is any indication, I hope they do scrap that project because uh,
It's kind of like there's a Wheel of Time TTRPG that Wizards of the Coast produced in early 2000s.
did not do well.
It didn't, and you know, yeah, I don't know. Some of these classic things like that. Well, and it just depends. If you're really a big fan of that series, then yeah, don't expect too much. Um, if you really have no idea about the series itself, then that TTRPG isn't. I'm not going to say it's great, but it's not awful. Um, Kind of like the Amazon television series for Wheel of Time. I mean, that's
Mhm.
definitely not following the story, but it's not an awful series. Not Wheel of Time, but
Yeah,
for a person who has no idea, has never read any of the Wheel of Time books, they're probably going to watch that and think, "Wow, this is
it's
awesome."
amazing.
Really
And
cool.
then
Yeah.
then then for those of us who've read the books, we're like, it's good,
Eh,
but it's not Wheel of Time.
right. I don't know what
um,
story they're telling, but it's not this
it's not
story.
yeah, it's not the Wheel of
Yeah.
Time. Nice try, but it's not what it is. Sorry. So yeah, Lord of the Rings has actually they've actually released two actually new legendary servers, and these are servers. So for those of you who don't know, you have the live servers which go all the way up to the most recent expansion, which is called the I think Umbar expansion or something. I can't remember off the top of my head for the life of me. Um, and goes up to level 150, I believe, 140, 150. But legendary servers are ones that start a base game and then they release each of the expansion, a couple months at a time. So like 3 or 4 months they release an expansion, and then 3 or 4 months they release another one. So you get to kind of progress at a steady pace. And they've just released two new ones, Angmar, which is set here in the US, and then another server in the EU, which is actually the only server in the EU called I say Morgoth, something like that. Mordor, I think it's called. I can't remember all this shit. But it's doing really well. They're doing really well, and the piece that's really important is that these are now 64-bit clients. Or in the server technology 64-bit, so it has assumably gotten rid of one of the biggest critiques of Lord of the Rings Online, which is a lag, based on the server architecture and the code. The game over over the several years that it's been live has had issues with lagging, like kind of on micro stutters.
Right.
So according to them, and I've actually played on Angmar a little bit. It's it's not there anymore. So and they've done a couple of other things like graphical updates, small ones, and then some quality of life updates. So the game is definitely being maintained by Standing Stone Games. They're committed to it. The player base, while small when compared to larger games like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14, are definitely committed to the game. So I wish Standing Stone Games and the community all the best. I mean, I love Tolkien's work, so hell yeah, man, keep it going.
Absolutely. It,
Um,
it looks interesting. I haven't actually tried that one yet, but it definitely looks interesting. It obviously, I'm a big fan of the Lord. But yeah, I put the link up there in the chat. If you're interested, go check it out. Um, you know, hey, come back and tell us what you think.
but yeah, Greg, unless you have anything else, I think that might be a short episode.
I not for tonight. For tomorrow night, if you're interested, we will be reviewing Book Five, The Wheel of Time, Fires of Heaven. Um, our book reviews are a little different. We just talk about story and what we like, and we would love to engage the audience and find out what you like. If you've read the stories, who your favorite characters are, things like that. I know if you haven't read it recently, 24 hours is not enough time to read that book for me anyway. But
Yeah, for some people it is.
go check it
Not
out.
for me. I've been reading longer than 24 hours.
So otherwise, we next week we will have the last episode of the BOR, which is our existing cyberpunk stream that we are doing, and then we are going to be switching up some content a little bit, and run well. One of the first things we're going to be running is Symborum, which will be straight to video. It's not going to be live on Twitch. We will be doing some more live games on Twitch. We're just kind of changing the platform up a little bit. So we may not do live games on Twitch for a little while. Disappointing, I know, but we definitely want to make sure that we're getting some good creative content coming, both here and on YouTube. And we're trying to increase the video quality a little bit. So hey, there's always that.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, we will continue the Wheel of Time book review and get some other things going in that space. Plus, working on getting some more guest creators on the update log, so we can continue to build upon that. That's all I got, man.
All right. Well, thank
Thank
you guys for coming up for episode 64 of the update log. Hope to see you here tomorrow for book 5 of the Wheel of Time book review for Fires of Heaven.
Absolutely, and thank you. Yeah,
Um,
like Rob said, thank you all for joining us tonight. Really appreciate you. Without you, we wouldn't be doing this. So
Pretty much, yeah. You're the reason why.
absolutely. Let me
All right, guys.
see. Anybody want to name a raid for tonight? We'll raid into somebody. Who do we have?
Let's do Legends of Eventris. They're out there doing their thing.
They are. I gotta find them. Which is new setup on this thing is strange. But yeah. Okay. Ah, there we go. Legends of Vantris. Okay, so we will raid into them. Check these folks out. They have actually a series that a world of their own for TTRPGs that they created. They're entertaining. If you don't follow them, show them some love. Thank you again for being here tonight. See you tomorrow.